Chum Padar Carney agus Patrick Heaney, Amhrán na bhFiann, céad bliain ó shin, cúpla céad méadar an áit na bhfuil ag seasamh. Sa lá atá nniuán, tá an tabhrán fitte fúte lornach I stíl na hÉireann. Agus tá nas dríochtúil ag an Amhrán leis an áit dríochtúil seo porc an chrócaí. A céim fá ar peocú an tabhrán seo mar Amhrán náisiúnta na tíre. Agus céim fá a daríonn sé an méid sin cáinte héis céad bliana. Agus an cheist fanúsach mór an bhfuil an tabhrán amchuí mar Ros náisiúnta in éireann na linne seo.
I actually don't think the Irish National Anthem is a very good representation even of the Irish national struggle.
Tá áit fuile I tradiisiún míleata na hÉireann agus níontar éon arú tá for anán chúmach faoin áite chastara.
Sé an 10 ceangal atá going le cogan na saoirse na hairí amach na casca agus tá sin antáhachtach.
Bhí an aistear I gceist a gcónaí. Bhí aistear féin ag éireann ag tús an chéad sicáte nuair a chuaigh sé ó thuairse go saoirse. Bhí aistear féin ag Amhrán na bhFiann chomá. Cumú an tabhrán in iad go seacht. A cén chuí ar achraí Amhrán a cumú chun na hóglaí a gríosa go dtí Ros náisiúnta na hÉireann 20 bliain dar gceann.
Bé Padar Carney a chum na focail. Ceapan greibh sé smaoine bhar a feadh bhád scóise leis an cara seo leis Patrick Heaney. Agus hagris le céile go minic go dtí greibh idir sásta leis an ceol agus leis na lyricí.
Níl mór an óla seagan faoi Patrick Heaney hain duine an hiún na bheithe blá clíoch. An fás móla sin béidir ná go bhfuair sé bás an óg. Duine an cheolmhar a bheith Heaney. Cé nach ró léamh nó scríomh an cheoilige de chum sé faoin le tlúis.
Padar Carney is a key player. You find him at all of the events that you would expect to find an activist. But this song came into the public consciousness through the internment of the men in the aftermath of the 1916 Rising. It's said that it was sung in the GPO in 1916, but we know that the first reference to it was published in Irish Freedom, which is the main IRB paper, in 1912 in the English language. And Padar Carney wrote later that the reason that he published it was because he was being tormented by all these young soldiers asking him to give them a copy of the song.
Mar greibh rud có spragúil, nó bhíoh na boys mar deise de maithe marsa nó tréanán, bheadis fadíal beidir nó canna. Ach tá chur síos álainn ag líam ó briain ina bheithe snéis, nó bhí sé óg agus sa glúiseacht, agus trámór go siúil síos na sráide, agus Amhrán na bhFiann a canacha, agus deirt gur réag ná phléasc se le mórtas cinne, agus le háthas.
Cé go raibh Amhrán na bhFiann méil an phobal, ní raibh aon stádas ifigiúil ag an Amhrán. Chomála sin bhí feidh políteachta an, bhí an díosbrot tosaigh hena féin, an rá an tabhrán seo ireannach mar Ros náisiúnta. Is ag an buinte sin a chur nuachtáin a láidir isteach sa scéal. Bhí an Dublin Evening Mail lonathe sa bhurgnamh sin taobh I mí meitheamh na bliana 1923, d'eagraigh sé comórtas chun rosc uair nua a amsú.
There's a competition for the coinage, the new images of the state. And so in this particular context, the decision was taken by one of the Irish newspapers, the Evening Mail, to have a competition for the writing of a new anthem. And what's really interesting about it is they select, of course, WBA to sit on the committee to judge the entries. But of course, the qualities of the entries were really not of a very high standard.
Bhí dúis chuige Guinea a tariscint don íireach de bar. Dar leis na moltóirí ná a bhiú chuige Guinea, éon íireacht a churach isteach, ná éon fiúch de chuige Guinea ach irid.
A camera is a horse put together by a committee agus is dár mar rud mar comórtas mar gur sort camera hoca cas. Mar ní bheith éon cúlra mothúcán leis. Is cum cé comás a bheith an tabhrán. Níor bhain se le héine bheith sé nódra cumachas amach.
Bhag an tarachtas go teachláin sa bhí 1922. Bhí an muoín agus tóchas ag bant leis an am. Bhí ar rialtas féin agan, bhí ar Parliament féin agan, bhí an Parliament sin lonathe an seo i teachláin. Bhí ar stampí féin agan fiúán, ach bhí fáib amháin, ní raibh aon rosc náisiúnta agan, ní raibh stádas ifigiúil ar bith aige.
Ní raibh an státeach beidir 7 mbliain díos nó rugad mise. an glondar bhí a gine is ar dír féin bheitcha. Agus Amhrán a bhí an bhainse le ar dír féin is na daine a ghlach leis na daine cheapé agus bhí mar sór dríocht a bhí ann agus de ghlacha leis go nabheh fiúil. Agus ní dá go bhéit bhí aon Amhrán eile chu na áit ag an am sin.
In those early years of the state, it wasn't the accepted national anthem, but for the people it was. For bands and for local communities, it really was the song of choice. So when it came time in 1926 for the issue to be raised in the Dáil, the then Minister of Defence came out with the statement that it was the national anthem, the soldier song, when he was pressed, but it was like a gut reaction. It wasn't a planned statement, because for him it was the one that he had obviously grown up with.
Láithreach bhí coibhlintí maidir le stádas an rosc uair náisiúnta. Mar hampla leis na hagrachtí protestúnach a chuinnig ceanga leis an ratan, déta cláist na trinóide agus cumann ríga bhlá clia a bhearú. Go garid treis a ghlacu le Amhrán na bhíon mar ros náisiúnta, scríbhann rialtas go dtí an RDS ag déanamh éilib arú go raibh sé éigintach Amhrán na bhíon a casa ag casbantas na gapal. Má na méid siad tilsnach é sinna dhéanamh dúirt an rialtas bheadh implachtaí deimhin le teacht.
I think there's a certain paradox in the origins of the soldier song in that obviously its sentiments are very much militant Irish nationalism, but musically it very obviously arises out of the broader context of what Ireland was like in the early 20th century, particularly what Dublin was like in the early 20th century, which was that it was part of the British Empire and it was part of that common popular culture of the empire.
Hannig an cheol an geol a bhí go tíanta san áirt cahar ag an am ceol a bhí I méil an phobal, ceol a bhain leis na music halls agus áitreacha eile, ceol a bheachla leis Manchester nó Birmingham ag an am geanna.
A hennig mar an daine an ceol úntach a scríomh an Commodore Sassenach a tasach an céilte chatte Edward Elgar, the Pomp and Circumstance March. Mas féidir am cuioine fear ha sé cosúla seo. So is féidir dul díreach ó Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance March. A bhain in an áíre leis an meán hasnig, a díreach isteach in Amhrán na bhíon. Agus tá spáinn sé sin is tócha gur ó héobh stíl nó gramadach an ceol nó tang an ceol, mas féidir sin a hortar, gur bhí an tanga nó an gramadach nó an stíl an genre chéanna ha gist.
The chum Padraig Heaney an funhain melodian, no is Earlish Germanic an melodian. So nílach nota áirithe le fáil an melodian agus caithi gur Jonachar ag nádúir in the Hurlish sin an sort fun a chum sé siúd.
Well, it's a very tough song to sing, and I've tried singing it before. Like I sang it at a rugby match and stuff, but it was it was hard going. I knew there was guns involved anyway. Yeah, I never quite knew exactly what the words meant. You know, I don't think a lot of people would. You know, the facts behind the song are more important than the song itself as a song. I think, you know, so I wouldn't necessarily be mad into the song, but I suppose for what it is, what it represents, yeah, it's kind of. I suppose I'd have to say I like it.
Ní I bríonn sé, just ní I bríonn sé, full stop. Má bhíonn tú I láthair ag go cháid nó ag cluiche go minic, ní bhíonn daine an a chana, ní le cinnte maríall ar na focail, ní héon cabhraíad na focail dar nó, mar níl mórán a dul ló. Deir mé seo, I bríonn na lyricí béarla a bhad níos fearr le na lyricí Gaeling. Ach, ní raibh sé sin I rúnach dar nói sna fehadaí, nuair a bhíidir ag iarraigh an Gaeling a chur chun cín. Ba ceart go mbeadh Amhrán againn a bhfuil é bríonn I méarla agus in Gaeling.
Now, we did quite a lot of work in Northern Ireland with Rob Strong and the Las Vegas show band. And once you cross that border, it was a different scene with regard to the kind of feelings that you'd get, the kind of vibes that you'd get, and the reaction to the national anthem, be it the Soldier Song or the Queen. You didn't know really till the last moment the background of the place. In other words, were you going to be going to a nationalist area or a union stroke loyalist area?
I suppose again in playing Amhrán na bhFiann, you played it with a little more attention to detail, but you never made eye contact with the people who have their hands up like this.
One of the abiding memories that I have is the notion that there were occasions when we forgot. And in the middle of the set, you'd be looking at these people dancing around and you'd suddenly think, are we to play the Soldier Song or the Queen? And you'd be searching around trying to see, was there somebody who could tell you? Which was also a delicate matter, because they might think that you should really know which it is. So there were a couple of times when we were quite nervous, because if you played the wrong one, you were in trouble.
Ach tá cléchlór mór tagir éireann idir an dá lín. An seo í lár na príomhchathrach feicim muid tír hever, óg, ildánach agus ilgnéthach, ach spragann sin ceist. An bhfuil an Ros náisiúnta éireannach don éireann nua íseach seo.
Is cinnte go bhhain Amhrán na bhFiann le ré eile fad nar a cumhhair chumar be is stair na hÉireann. Sin ráite ní gágateach pleanhhair Ros náisiúnta go leor tíre eile ceanna Francach go háirid.
Tá sé dachar chur síos objektúil i dhéanamh mar táimse a chana ó bhí sa fáiste agus tá sais ceangal braham mórtas agus féin bhaoinín agus nuair a dtíosan ar fad nuair a chana mé. A caithe mé rá nach daoín na focail a néachair a hiileadm, má hang siad riamhlum agus ní disagam. Ach ní iann siad den sochaí atá inisigan.
We've learned in the most bitter way that a nationality is a pretty complicated thing, and that it's not that easy to simply boil it down to some sort of simple musical essence which can then strike off one single emotion in us.
Tá sé measca gom héan imime héal héan leis le bheith freistal ar scóil sna seanalaíonta leis na bráir Chríostaí agus go raibh gachrod a bhíonn leis an cultúr glas. Bhí gachrod glas. Ní a bhíon dá eile le feiscint agus ní a bhíon dá eile le cloisiant agus ní ceadítar na dahanna eile háart isteach go dtí an chaile.
Is léir nach daithníonn an tabhran na chuile duine ach go bhfuil neart agan ar an scéal. An bhfuil ráha eile an nó bhfuil muid sánathe le Amhrán na bhFiann mar Ros náisiúnta.
The one great argument for sticking with Amhrán na bhFiann is Ireland's call.
Tá sé cearcailóireach ní haíonn sé mar Amhrán agus ní dólam bhfuil sé iarúnach de Amhrán náisiúnta.
Well, it's Roscé agus is the lucht an rugby is máchan.
Ireland's call has created as much division amongst rugby people about a simple song as it has about whether we should rock or whether we should maul. Coulter fulfilled his role perfectly. He analysed the relationship of the four proud provinces of Ireland as his anthem goes. The problem is that it's not very good musically.
As far as I'm concerned, whenever Ireland play, it is Amhrán na bhFiann is the national anthem that I believe in.
It's not very good for 60-odd thousand sweaty, beer-swilling rugby supporters on terraces that they can associate themselves with. But having said that, it is better than anything they've tried before. It is a noble effort to do what needs to be done to encapsulate the traditions, so I support it. Musically, I hate it.
It hasn't gone into my head in a manner that seems to suggest that it has the qualities that an anthem should have.
Meawrim gom nar a bhí na Gaeile gimmert Barcan Chrócaí, Gael rugby, na Cluffy rugby gim Barcan Chrócaí, na Franca agus na Bretagne ag tús na bliana seo na chéad Cluffy stairúla, ócáid stairúla. Níor cluisiúh Amhrán na bhFiann, choláidir agus dóina níor an mothúchan a tháinig cin cín deoir Amhrán na bhFiann, cho feicáilach agus a chunig fiú ag Cluffy
Never in my entire life did I sing that anthem with such passion and feelings. And even now in describing it, the emotion was so intense that the nation had come of age. The great words of tone had been fulfilled. You know, Catholic, Protestant and dissenter had come together for the betterment of the nation. And I remember it was so incredibly emotional.
Bhí imróí idirnáisiúnta, fír chrua na héireann, John Hayes, Jerry Flannery, bhí siad le feiceáil agus iad a cuine agus órán a bhí na chaasa, agus dóigh go bine an fá a gúirann sé asca loch rugbí na héireann nach gantar órán a bhí agus mu tear lear. Bhí go leor daoine barcin chróchaí tús na bliana nárthaigh na focail ach bhín mochuáin, bhín stói an brú náisiún an brú gaelach seo a tíocht amach.
Tá métha a géirí mar hampla an Ros náisiúnta ahrú is beart siimplí a bheith an amach is amach. Ní bheith gá ach le ahrúreachtaíochta nó le cinna rialtais sa bhurgan of sin hall.
If we now say post-Belfast Agreement that we exist in an all-Ireland context, you know, should we have an anthem that you cannot, without offending, very seriously offending a lot of people, play in part of the island? You know, how could we integrate the wonderful native musical traditions of Ulster, you know, which are Scottish, which are Irish, which are hybrid in themselves?
Ní bheith siúrúnach in éachair, just tradiisiúna bháin a bheith in Amhrán mar seo, ní léon maithas an son in éachair. Caithfidh go nibríon go dimbroch an ceol le úlaisí tradiisiúnta. Gur ceart go mbeadh duine an aine a haint ar an bíobilin agus ar an mosca ceol, cos maríon leis an symphony orchestra, maríon leis an military band.
There is an arguable solution, you know, which is to go back to one of those very stirring, very beautiful Irish traditional march tunes, like O'Neill's March, for example, you know, which are you know, they have all the stuff you want in national anthem. You can march to it if you want.
Tá mhéan anna cheanúil ar Amhrán dóchais. Is ceann bra siimplí tá fón das leis agus tá sprid das a bhaint leis. Bhí sé anna chamánta nó a bhí sa fásúas de chana mís communicé go láistí saoirg agus a héad.
National anthem na bhí fagúil a thar timpeall na léanta seo ná Magilla Mar agus má héantú go dtí ar gáirde in ar corchaí bhí agus agus sin rud a chur seanóíad amach agus bhfuil go bhach peidir agus cór crué agus is minic a chantar an ceol seo ag socrid nó ag crunithe eile.
Níl rial dangan a bhaineann le ris náisiúnta thar lear. I dtíre áirithe bantar úsáid a stíl déagach, sé stíl míleata a úsáidir i dtíre eile. I America hasmar hampla is sé stíl opera an stíl is fairsinge. Ach I dtíre áirithe le céad bliana nús, athriú an Ros náisiúnta ar watha le politics.
The only precedent that I know of in terms of the actual changing of an anthem in recent times was the Australian example, where they had quite an interesting process around did they want to keep God Save the Queen, which had been their anthem because of the Empire and the Commonwealth. Did they want to change it to Waltzing Matilda, which was a kind of popular song that most people would associate very strongly with Australia, or did they want to go for this kind of new version, I think, called Advanced Australia Fair? They came up with the idea of choosing something new, you know, something which was going to be looking forward and have some kind of new resonance for a new Australia. I think that was probably the idea behind it. One of the things that a lot of more recent anthems do, actually, for example, is they do evoke landscape. You know, they try to evoke the place, and okay, they may do that in sometimes fairly hackneyed romantic terms, but it can make some sense for an anthem to try to say, look, this is the beauty of my country. We happen to exist in a particularly beautiful country, and you certainly wouldn't know any of that from Amhrán na bhFiann.
Is gointe gúil beidir cúpla ceán cumúh le goirid Tamas Munia Chiana Hafricas, mar náisiún nua sin agus stoi gur bhreanna siad himpelas clach siad ach tradiisiún an rééis sin na a cumíomh.
I suppose if the precise geography of the jurisdiction was to change, then there might be a reason to look again at the national anthem. But I wonder at that stage, would it be worth composing something entirely new?
Ní ghlachan héiles nar gon cearta áú mar go bhfuil an stoi an go mainin se le tradiisiún mílite is anan an cás I ddéir an tromlach na nóra náisiún ar fod an da.
Agus fécar árán na Franke. Darn siad cá sang an púr a breuve vosíon sé sin dortamis fuil na dtíine nabh glana mar ílach ar dalamh. Well, tá sé sin míle go leor agus tá na Francigh fósca canna agus ní léine rá ó éirí as.
What Amhrán represents is all the things where it came from. The prison camps, the marching volunteers, the sacrifice of 1916. And why not remember it? I mean, if the French can remember chopping heads off their king and queen, then surely, be the goodness, we can remember our history too.
Dír hin gohfuil beidir glún a bhain eile a bheith rócharathe dá na harófaí in isé, ach in a dhéasan be sé an am rud éigent nua dhéanamh.
You see, the political correctness brigade ultimately will ban crucifixes in schools. Eventually they will hope that there aren't flags flying and that, you know, the blue flag with the stars on it and Beethoven's lament will be all we need. You know, and we will forget that we are Irish. We will remain Irish.
You take things that you would take for granted in the United States or in France, like what's your country called? You know, most people actually know the United States of America is called the United States of America. Most French people know France is called France. Most Irish people haven't a bloody clue what the country is called. Is it the Republic of Ireland? Is it Éire? Is it Ireland? You know, is it the Republic? Is it the North? Is it Northern Ireland? You know, we have you know, even the very naming of the country for us is difficult. And when you can't name the country, it's not easy to get an anthem which is going to provoke in you a single and simple response to the musical version of what that country represents.
Will meid staáilte le Amhrán na bhFiann níl. I mean, tá ré an nuha tagcha, tá sé tosnathe henne féin. Má há am chun an cheol agus an téach go mórmhór aistrú Seán Tom. Tá seansa sin í anmh inis nó go lua péiscéile. Agus ba ceart doing an áirí ceapam héan, ba ceart doing an seans sin a hógant leis an dá láimh agus a dhéanamh.
If anybody ever proposes the abolishment of Amhrán na bhFiann, I, for one, will be chained like the suffragettes of old to the gate of Leinster House.
If people dismiss it and ignore it and don't have the sense of pride when standing to attention, then I feel we're losing something that's fundamental about a love of a country that really is a loss, a huge loss to our generation and the generations to come.